is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Most Valuable Podcast. I am your host, Mark Williams, with my co-host,
Victor Castro.
and we are just two dudes who do real estate for a living. And you know what? You need to speak up or fail. And today we are going to talk about if you are either buying a home or in the process of selling your home or thinking about it, and you are looking for a real estate agent to help you out, we are going to give you tips, insight on how to ensure not only a successful transaction, not only a smooth transaction, but an enjoyable transaction as well. And it's not, although a lot of that falls onto who you hire, him or her, it also falls on your shoulders as well as the consumer to make sure that your expectations are not only met, but are exceeded. You think that sums it up, Victor?
I think so, because yes, like you said, bro, like you're hiring an agent, you have expectations, you're hiring them for a reason. But at the end of the day, if you're not, voicing your opinion, whether it's, in a aggressive way or whatever way you want to do it, you got to voice your opinion.
So let's start off with that. Let's get into Victor. Let's start off with maybe some of our own personal experiences, as far as what we feel has helped us have a good, successful track record. Knock on wood, but we always, other than our self-drive, when we're working with our quote-unquote ideal client, and that transaction happened, and it was like on both sides, we felt like very positive about how it went. Let's talk about some of those things that attributed to that successful transaction.
Sure.
Right? Maybe not some of the things we did, because we want to give them, the people listening to us, the insight on what those clients maybe asked of us, how we felt they kind of meshed with us, and why that was such a good experience.
How they voiced their opinion to
Yeah.
us. Yeah, no, and look, we have so many experiences, but I'm gonna speak about the one I'm about to close on Wednesday.
Okay.
Great clients. What's up, Rudy, Claire? Excited for you guys.
Congratulations.
Can't wait to give you keys on Wednesday. So I feel like this transaction was perfect. And it was not just in part of because of the job that I did, which obviously it was a great job.
Hey, your own horn, bro.
It was a great job, But they helped me do my job. Okay.
Okay.
And how do they help me do better for them? It's because they're giving me insight on what they're looking for. And if they feel like any sort of way, if they felt like any sort of way where I was leading them in a direction where, that they didn't want to go to, they would let me know. Got you. And that helped me actually.
That's huge.
Fix my approach.
Yes.
And, it kind of started, you've done this all the time. So look, to every single buyer out there, you might be approved for $1 million. Just an example. But doesn't mean you want to buy $1 million home. Maybe that payment is a little too steep for your comfort level. And this was their case.
Yeah.
They were approved for more than what they're actually buying at. So the process eliminated the homes that we needed to stay away from. And they were, they voiced that opinion to me. And they're like, hey, we don't feel comfortable buying at this price point. What do we need to do to find better options at a lower price point? And that's how we came to find the home.
And that's huge. That, I feel, this is just my opinion. I feel sometimes the client gets that sticker shock. I think we get that a lot in real estate, right? Like, yes, you want to buy the home. You take the next step. You contact us, right? We get you in contact with the lender. And boom, 2 weeks later, you're getting, hey, you're approved for $1 million. And you're like, dang, yeah, I could buy $1 million. And then it's like, well, this is what the monthly looks like. And you're like,
Yeah.
Hold up. You know, I don't want to spend $7,500 a month, right? Or $8,000 a month, right? And you know, there's ways to lower that payment. That's not what this episode is about. And then it's like, and I know you've experienced this too, where okay, they're approved for this much, and then the buyers, you listening, you guys kind of like freeze up, and then that communication starts getting slower, and it's less and less. Like almost you got this sense of feeling that we're gonna force you, we as the agents are gonna force you to spend this amount monthly. And that's not the case. And in this case, they spoke up and said, hey, we know we're approved for this, but we're really comfortable at this. And I know you say I do it all the time. That's what I preach. It's like, yeah, you're approved for $1 million, but what are you comfortable spending realistically? And then we get the vice versa too, where they tell us they're comfortable spending like what their rent is. And just in this environment, your mortgage is going to be more than likely more than your rent.
It's going to be more.
You want to be in a similar neighborhood than what you're renting, right?
Yes.
So like, and same thing, they get closed-minded. Like, no, I'm just going to wait. I'm going to wait till the crash. I'm going to wait. And then like, same thing, the communication like slows. Then it comes to where they're text messaging us every hour on the day being excited. And then once that pre-approval and the reality sets in, then it's like, it feels like we're reaching out to them more than they're reaching out to us.
It's like we wanted more than they wanted.
And that's, and it shouldn't be that way.
It should not be
and
that way.
I always tell them, that's a good point, that statement you just made. I always tell clients, like, and I already own a home. I own a couple homes. I'm not buying a home. It's your house. I'm not here to spend your money. If you were like, hey, we're approved for $1 million, we want you to go, that's your budget, Mark, go find us our home that has X, Y, and Z. Okay, I'll do that for you if that's what you want. But in reality, it's your money. You have to be comfortable spending this. It's your approval. You worked hard to get good credit. You worked hard to have a down payment. You worked hard to fill out the forms you needed to get some down payment assistance. It's you have to live there, not I, right? So we need to know like what you're comfortable with. We need to know where you want to live. And the only way we know that is you telling us. So like not like shutting down communication wise is probably the worst thing that I think, a potential buyer can do.
Me and Mark cannot help you if you're not voicing your opinion, which is what this podcast is about. That's, we're going to fail if you don't help us. So how do we succeed? And it's okay if you don't succeed within the 3-month contract that we have just signed, because there is a contract that we signed to be able to represent you and you to be able to work with us exclusively. So what happens? Hey, maybe the time period is not going to make any sense for us.
Yeah.
Can we maybe search homes a year later when we're making more money or whatever the case may be? You have to let us know your thoughts, your opinions, so that we can set up a game plan for the future. Not necessarily, because it's so awkward. Wouldn't you agree, Mark, when there's no, like you just mentioned, there's the communication starts slowing down and then eventually becomes non-existent.
Yeah.
To the point where you're not answering any texts, you're not answering any calls or emails. And it's like, you put us in a position where we can't help you anymore. At the end of the day, you're failing at that point.
Yeah, and I want to say this. It's like, you reached out to us. Like me and Victor, we get leads, right? We'll get like, we get big referral-based business, right? So past clients say, hey, my coworker or my cousin or brother are looking to buy, gave them your information. We're going to say, hey, get us in contact with them. And we sometimes we reach out first. A lot of times they reach out to us. So if you're reaching out to somebody for help, you're telling them, hey, doesn't mean like it's going to happen tomorrow. And I've actually been saying that a lot lately to clients. It's like, just because we're talking today doesn't mean we're going to go buy a house tomorrow, right? It's, and I have to take a step back. And yes, we do this on a daily, but I also got to take a step back. Like, 9 years ago, I didn't sell houses every day, right? So the biggest purchase for someone was usually like a car. And usually the day you go look at cars, you drive away with the car. Because that car salesman has that slim, finite time to get you interested enough to sign on the dotted line. Because I don't know, I'm sure if I pulled it up, what's the statistics between someone actually going to like a car dealership and then leaving without something? I guarantee like there's a huge drop off in like them coming back to
100%. 100%.
And that's like that's what I got to remember is you guys listening to us, you know, that's what you're used to. And we're here to let you know that real estate is not like that. You know, the pre-approval process can it could be like a 1-day thing, or it can be like a 6-month thing. It all depends on like your certain situation. And then also the transaction is more, it's like our title says, you know, it's on you if you fail, because we could only put the application in front of you to fill it out. You have to fill it out. Then once it's filled out and processed, the documents that are needed, you have to submit the documents, right? You have to be okay figuring out how much you want to pay. There's a lot that falls on you. Now, you may be asking, well, then what am I hiring you for? Well, that's what we're here to do. We're here to make those processes that you need to do, we're here to make it as easy as possible. And that I like to say we basically empower our clients with the knowledge to understand why these things need to be done. And then to make it as smooth as possible, that's more enjoyable to do than of like another task or overwhelming.
There's a reason why they say realtors wear so many different hats in the transactions. We're a psychologist, we're a motivator,
we're relationship counselors.
We're everything that you want to think of. Yes, that's exactly.
But that's what we do. That's what we signed up for. We love it.
We love it. But and look, like what I was thinking about when you were saying that is you can lead a horse to the water, but you can't force the horse to drink the water. And it's kind of applies to this as well. It's like, hey, like you actually reached out to us.
Yeah.
We're not going to force you to drink the water.
No.
It's up to you.
But we're going to tell you the water tastes good.
Exactly.
And we're going to show you how to we're going to show you how to filter the water so you don't get sick.
Right.
Right? We're going to empower you to know that if you drink this water, you're going to be happy, but it's still up to you to drink.
It definitely comes with some benefits.
Yes, exactly. And and that's, I would also say on the buyer respect too, and to this transaction that you just did, is being comfortable with who you're working with. And just because your friend had a great experience with Mark and Victor doesn't mean you're going to vibe with Mark and Victor. Odds are, if it's Mark and Victor, you're going to vibe with us. Whatever. But what I'm getting at is, if you're working with look, and there are way more great agents than there are bad agents, right? But in any profession, there's always a small percentage that aren't the best. If every restaurant was a 5-star restaurant, it would be so hard to make a choice, right? Same thing. Like every restaurant's not up to par, right?
Hands down.
That's why there's things like Yelp and Google reviews and stuff like that, right?
It might look great, but then is the food great?
Yeah, and then also like what I think tastes great may not taste great to somebody else, right?
True.
It's preference. So that being said, it's up to you to make sure that whoever you're working with, you feel that they have your best interests. Because we've worked with clients that became clients of ours that we helped them get into home ownership who had tried the process before in the past. And it wasn't a good experience for them. I could talk about me personally. When I first got the idea that I wanted to buy a home, I had a really great agent. And he's actually still a real estate agent now. But unfortunately, at that time, 2012, 2013, it was super competitive. And we were shopping in the peninsula and we were striking out, man. We were writing offer after offer after offer. And look, it was nothing that looking back at it, now that I know what I know now, that's not essentially what he did. It probably could have been me expressing maybe a little bit more of like how open I was to maybe expand our search a little bit. I was very close-minded, like I need to be here, I need to be here. But in reality, I probably would have been open to maybe even looking in the East Bay, but I wasn't. It was a little bit on me and a little bit on him to say, hey, like maybe can I make a suggestion?
You have more options.
There are more options. Are you open to at least looking at it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So knowing that, but then, okay, so I stopped using him and then we gave up. And then like 6 months later, I went to look at another property and I did the Zillow thing. And like some lady called me. I'm like, yeah, show me the property. And she made me sign something and I didn't know what I was doing. Even me being a bank manager that looks at reviews documents daily, like I just thought I was like, okay, you probably want to make sure I'm pre-approved, which I am. And then 2, you want me to sign this. Like if you showed it to me that you were going to be the one to represent me, I was cool with that. Well, it turns out is she was sneaky and she made me sign a contract for a couple months.
Oh, wow.
And when I like figured out what she did, I was like, ooh, like that's car salesman like.
Behind my back, didn't explain anything.
No wonder she was rolling a nice car. Like how many people are you tricking into like using you? Because I didn't really like her. Like, yes, if I would have liked that property, I would have used her because that's just how I was raised, right? But I'm just saying, like, after that, like her communication, the vibe, like I felt like I was reaching out more to her than she was to me as the buyer. I feel it should be opposite. Like, what I'm looking for, start sending me some properties. And she wasn't. I was like, man, I don't want to use this lady anymore. And then I read the contract and I was like, oh, this sneaky. I wouldn't use the word, but this sneaky person, right? Like,
Yeah.
Okay, I see how you roll.
Right.
And, kind of left a bad taste in my mouth.
Right.
And when it was time to fast forward a year later, I was referred to an agent that was like a best friend of one of the mortgage guys at the branch I was managing. And, we went to lunch and I told him what I was looking for and I got a good vibe and boom, he got me in a house like that because he listened. But then I also knew what to say. Like, I'm looking for this, this, and this. This is the budget I want to be at. I'm okay with the condo. If it's a condo, I want to be on the top floor. I'm okay with this HOA. I have this much down payment. And we actually got an off-market listing because he started working his networks and got me something. We looked at other ones, but the one we settled on, it literally checked off all the boxes, except it needed to be updated. But I was okay with doing the cosmetic fix.
Yeah.
Which I told him. So, just that transaction was a nice transaction. I was super satisfied with the level, but then also looking back on it, I had a lot more input as well. And this is what we're saying on this episode is you don't know this. We're sharing this experience like, hey, be demanding, be vocal. Let us know how we can make your situation better.
Right. Yeah, no, I kind of felt some sort of way too as well. Now that I look back at it as an actual agent versus a consumer when I bought my house, like I feel like I was being steered in certain ways sometimes, and I'm like, I wish I would have voiced my opinion a little bit better. But now that I'm an agent and I'm going through this, on a daily basis, now like I can see why it's hard for some people to actually do it. But this is just our message is don't be scared. If you help yourself in voicing your opinion, I think the transaction can be and will be much better. You just have to let it be known. And if you feel like something is going the wrong way or maybe something was done incorrectly, if you let that agent know, ultimately you're kind of sticking up for yourself, right?
Yeah, and we're not hinting that the agent's doing something bad. They're just doing whatever resource they got from you, whatever knowledge they got from you. Their strategy is based on that. What they're showing you is based on what you're telling them you want. The way they're communicating with you is based on like how the communication has been going
up until that point.
Right? So if you're working with somebody that you feel cannot take constructive criticism and then be able to be like, you know what? You're right. Let me adjust that and grow from it, then you're working with the wrong person.
I think
you're not going to hurt my feelings.
I think
bro.
that's it right there. I think you just said it. You just hit the nail right on the head. It's your agent has to be able to take constructive criticism.
And then as well, vice versa. Yeah. I've worked with clients, I was helping some clients purchase a home. I want to say last year, about 2 years ago, last year. And they had a specific budget. So we got them pre-approved. They were able to get some gifted money to bring their payment down to where they wanted. So we knew we wanted, they were approved for way more, similar situation you're in, way more than what they ended up buying. But they said comfortably, this is where we want to be. Then they said.
The one in San Francisco? Couple in San Francisco?
No, this was in West Contra Costa County.
Gotcha.
So San Pablo, Richmond, whatnot.
Okay.
And they were like, we want to be as close to the Bay Bridge as possible at this budget. So I'm one to say, okay, this is where these are the cities we need to look in. Then we looking at properties, and we adjusted because they went on that budget route, and I said, okay, I'll show you. If this is where you want to be, I will show you. I will find properties to show you. We started looking at some serious fixer-uppers, and although the husband's in construction, I gave him that look like, this is a lot of work, bro. Yes, it's cheap, but how much money are you going to be in it? How much time are you going to be in it? Do you have the time working a full-time job? Your wife working a full-time job? Do you have the time to actually fix it up? Or would you want something that is a little bit more polished, right? Maybe there's a couple things you can do, flooring, paint, or something like that. So, boom. Then what happened was they started sending me properties above where they wanted to be at. And I'm a straight shooter. I literally said, I thought we were sticking to this budget. Do you want to increase your budget? Because I need to know.
Yeah.
And they said, no, we don't want to increase this budget. I said, okay, then stop sending me these homes. This is the price point you need to be at.
In that flow.
You know what I'm saying? And it was cool because they understood that I had their best interest because they literally, that was the deciding factor. Because I had shown them homes above their budget initially. And although they liked the home, they didn't want to write an offer. So not what changed. And that's what I said. I was like, tell me what changed between then and now that now you're willing to pay $1,000 more a month. Because 3 days ago you weren't. And they were like, no, we don't want to. I said, okay, well, these homes are not going to sell for $50,000 less. They're actually going to sell for more than what they're listed for. So I know you like them. You can afford it. And I'll show it to you. But you literally just told me this is not what you want.
And that's bro, that's funny. That's exactly what happened with my clients, Rudy and Claire. They were sending me some properties that were up like towards the top of their budget, but they didn't feel comfortable with the payment. They loved what they were looking at. And like, there's always a process.
Yeah.
First day, I saw them, everything that was available in the process between high, mid to low.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the second time we went out, it was properties that they sent to me. So I'm like, okay, so potentially it's not necessarily the price point, is what they're getting for the price. For the price. So we actually saw some pretty pricey properties that were a little further out.
Yeah.
Bay Point, Pittsburgh, and stuff like that. But once they found out what their monthly payment is, we didn't end up submitting any offers. Yeah. So they came to find out that what they had to sacrifice, and it's always a sacrifice, whether it's your monthly payment, your commute, something has to give way for you to become a homeowner.
Unless you win a lot.
Unless you're buying it cash, right?
Yeah.
So their sacrifice is to commute further. And now they're buying in Pittsburgh, $200,000 below what they were originally approved at. And now they have a comfortable payment with a really beautiful home that's ready to move in. And they're happy.
Yeah. That's the bottom line is your happiness. And sometimes that happiness costs a little bit more than you were expecting. But what we're getting at is the transaction, those dialogues, you have to be comfortable having those dialogues with the person representing you. And vice versa, the person representing you should have the confidence enough to not just be, I think, see, that's the thing that people don't realize. Your agent shouldn't be someone to just open doors or someone to send you properties. Because guess what? You can see the same properties on Zillow. The properties I'm sending you, you can look them up yourself. It's just maybe I saw them before you did. You know, like I don't have a 9 to 5. Like all I do is look at homes all day. So, hey, this one popped up. Hey, look, this one popped up. Doesn't mean you weren't going to send it to me tonight. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not what we get paid to do. What we get paid to do is to, what I said earlier, is to kind of guide you, help make the process smooth, help have you I think the smoother the process is usually the more you understand. That's how I approach it.
100%.
The more I can educate, I always tell my clients, at the end of this transaction, you'll be able to educate your family, your friends on what they need to do as a buyer. And then when you send them to me, they already have that expectation set. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I like to empower people, and then on top of that, I'm comfortable like having that dialogue, and I think that's great because that's what makes a great transaction. You have questions, we have answers. We have questions, you have answers. It's when what we're saying is, in our experience, the failures happen when that line of communication stops, and it's not just on the agent. And then you may get this thing like, man, this agent keeps calling me, keeps bugging me. Well, there's a reason they're bugging you is because you initially reached out to them. So on that point, and that may happen, things change, right? You may be listening to this and say, hey, look, sometimes we want to just kick the tires. That's cool. Every person we talk to doesn't buy a home, right?
100%.
I mean, you talk to like 5 people a week, Victor. Victor talks to a lot of people a week, what we call buyer consultations. Like an initial consultation where we answer your questions, we get to know one another. You know, you're feeling out if it is a good time for you to start the process.
Yeah, or right? Just to learn about it.
To learn about it. Everyone we talk to doesn't go buy a house tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or doesn't even go through the pre-approval. Or some people never even buy, right?
I've helped people buy that talked to me originally 4 years ago.
Yeah.
That could be you. But if you don't inform yourself and reach out, it only becomes harder.
But what I'm getting at is, it's like, okay, you reach out to us, we talked. Maybe that dialogue got to the pre-approval process. When it stops, and if your agents keep reaching out to you, just answer the phone and just let them know that, hey, things changed. Not right now, Mark. Right now. And that will give a better experience for you as well, because then you're not going to feel like someone's just hounding you because all they want to do is sell you a home. What you got to understand is this is how we make a living. Like if we don't sell homes or help people buy homes, we don't make money. It's plain and simple. If an agent, I'll tell you this, and this might be controversial, and we like controversy here. We have a passion for what we do. We love helping our clients. But it is a career. And when you have a career, you usually do it to make money. Okay? So if any agent's telling you that they don't do this job to make money, they're just lying to your face.
Flat out lie.
Because last time I know, I haven't seen an agent that works for free yet. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I make money. So if you reach out to me, yes, I enjoy helping you. I want to help you. I would be honored to be part of that process, and I don't take it lightly. However, I'm also going to get paid, maybe not by you as the buyer, more than likely by the seller. So there's no money out of your pocket, but the end result is me getting a paycheck so I can pay my mortgage, so I can feed my kid, right?
And that brings me to, before I have to get this in here before we finish the episode here. With all more cause, if you know that your agent is doing this job for you, okay, you are not paying a dime in most cases.
Yeah.
In most cases. we're negotiating for ourselves in this transaction for the seller to pay us.
Yes.
If you know that, why wouldn't you take the time of your day to show your gratitude towards your agent, right? And that line of communication, and whether it's, hey, let's adjust our search, or let's completely finish it because I'm not ready, we're going to receive it. Ultimately, whatever communication you end up having with your agent is better than no communication at all.
Yes. I think that's the best way to say it, and maybe to wrap up this podcast is any communication is better than no communication. And hey, look, we've been buyers, right? Both me and you, we're homeowners. We used agents, and in my case, I've stopped relationships, right? I didn't use those other agents, and you know what? Like, I let them know, hey, I thank you for your time, but I'm just not ready to buy. And in the future, like, I'm probably going to look for somebody else to help me out. And that's okay. I'm all right hearing that. Like, I might reply, well, thank you for letting me know. What could I do better so the next person I help doesn't feel the same way?
I've said that exactly.
I want to grow.
To agents for past clients that decided to put a search or to maybe switch agents in the because it's happened to me. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna sit here and say it hasn't happened to me. You know, someone decided to work with their family member. Cool. Hey, more power to you. Wish you the best of luck. How can I grow from this? What can you help me, or what can you tell me that I need to work on, if anything, so that I can do better for the next client?
Yeah,
that's it.
Sometimes it's nothing. They just want to work with their family, right? But that's what I'm saying. Like, we appreciate that. We appreciate you. We appreciate you guys reaching out. We appreciate every single client that has texted us, emailed us, or called us, whether we helped you or not. We greatly appreciate that. We were even in consideration to be able to help you on such a big purchase. And we want, and what this podcast, and I've said it time and time again, our podcast is for you, the consumer. It is not for another agent that's maybe listening to this, and we appreciate them listening and supporting us. But it's for you as the consumer. We want to make sure, like, hey, when it's time for you to make a purchase, that you are informed, empowered, confident, and it's just going to make that transaction, your first experience in buying a home, so much more enjoyable. You're going to actually be able to enjoy the process. It's not going to feel overwhelming. We don't need to add more stress to your life already. We live in California. It's stressful enough, right? So, like we said in the title, is if you fail, it's kind of on you.
Yeah.
Right? Because this is a relationship that can be something special or can just go down the drain.
Right?
Any last words, Victor?
I wish you speak Spanish so we can do this whole thing in Spanish as well, because there's a lot of Spanish-speaking clients that need to listen to this.
On YouTube,
but anyways.
On YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can do subtitles in Spanish.
Okay, great. I'm gonna put out a message to everyone.
I can do that.
Oh, that's
when
great.
I upload it. Do you want me to do the subtitling in Spanish?
Please.
Okay, so if you have friends or family and you guys are listening to this on the podcast and it's great information, there'll be a link, or you can look us up, and the MVP Real Estate on YouTube, and this episode will be there, and I'll put subtitles in Spanish.
Great. Awesome.
All right, guys. Well, with that, we look forward
to winning with you.